July is now heading to a close, and I'm once again here to preach the many great games that I played this month, starting with a banger after I finally completed Hollow Knight. Well, I say completed, but I only did the first ending after 25 hours with only about 50% of the game explored, so I feel like I missed out on a lot, but I do have plans to come back sometime in the future to either continue exploring my current save or to start a new playthrough. The game feels and looks absolutely gorgeous, and I know it's easy to praise a game like Hollow Knight for being just that, but what's even harder to do is make such a deep and interactable world and story while keeping everything feel cohesive and compelling, which is what they've done here. In the early game, once you've seen all the locations that you can, and all you need to do is just look for the next clue, it can feel like a drag. That moment you check that one room and everything falls into place is the most satisfying moment I've ever felt. I don't know why I thought this game was longer than it was, maybe because of how big the world is or the large playtimes from all my friends, but it's a good thing because it leaves the people who just want to reach the end with a quick and easy leeway to do so, while also allowing those explorers and achievement seekers tons of content to discover. Although Hollow Knight isn't my all-time favorite game, probably top 6 though, and there are many flaws and sections that left me wanting more, like grinding the Colosseum for hours just to make my fragile charms unbreakable. There's nothing I can find without picking apart the game that I can say is a flaw or a detriment to the game at all. Everything works. Everything feels great. Every moment is enjoyable. Everything's perfect. And if a game can give you the feeling of wanting more after you roll credits, it's done what it's meant to. I then continued with my Dark Souls playthrough, which I won't be returning to. Blighttown fucking sucks. Why am I struggling with this shit on my second playthrough when it was such a breeze the first time? Brazilian Drug Dealer 3, I opened a portal to hell in the favela trying to revive Mid-Aya, I need to close it, is one of a kind. Let's go with that. It's developed on the ID Tech 2 engine, which is the Quake 2 engine. The whole game just feels like a YouTube shitpost, and it gives the same vibes as those Instagram reels with an incoherent amount of memes and sounds, and sometimes even those videos where they run away from next spots in Gmod. Also, the game is just Brazilian as fuck. It's so crazy. The weapons go from double single-barreled shotguns, to a golden AK, to double automatic Glocks, to a snake staff, to a paper airplane, and other little touches like the giant Lego Man enemies with chainsaw, fighting Satan himself, rooms with music so goddamn loud you can't even hear your own gunshots, Portuguese text written in Comic Sans everywhere, and this man's face that you can't get away from. But with all that being said, the game feels like a complete experience and really well designed. I know, call me crazy, right? And even with how enemies are placed around every level, it feels good to play, especially with your accumulation of weapons throughout. And it's not like you're just moving from randomly placed assets on one level to another with the same. There's a consistent story throughout the game. Even though I don't really know what it is, I wasn't paying attention. But Brazilian Drug Dealer 3 is a really unique game made by a really unique man. And it's clear everything wasn't just smushed together with random pictures and memes he had in his camera roll. This is a well thought out shitpost game, and it's art. This whole game is a piece of art. And I also went back to play The Last of Us Part 1's DLC, Left Behind. After I completed the game, I had to hold myself back from replaying it instantly, and while I wait for Part 2 to go on sale, I figured this would be worth playing. And I also had to get footage for a Last of Us video for the future. Shit's still coming, and the Minecraft story mode video, I promise, eventually. Unfortunately, I was already spoiled from watching the show after I finished the main game, but hey, it's more The Last of Us, so I wasn't complaining. Since it is completely a story expansion, I don't like going into spoilers for these videos, and I won't, but it just makes it hard to talk about stuff like this. One thing though was that I didn't expect it to be so short, just under 2 hours actually, which is fine considering the main game is also rather short, but still, I expected more. It expands more on Ellie's past and shows us just how much more badass she can be by herself. I'm not going to go over the game's basic combat and movement and whatnot. We all know by now that it's all peak. You know, saying The Last of Us is a good game is like saying that water's wet and all that. But it fits in as a short and sweet expansion that fills in some missing parts of the base game and really expands on the characters quite well. And this month, I decided to try learning a new survival game, that being The Isle. With DayZ feeling a little stale and especially not having my duo recently, I wanted to challenge myself. And after watching a heap of Isle movies on YouTube, I thought it would be a pretty cool game. And it is. I would describe it the most as DayZ, but with dinos, but really it's unlike anything I've ever played. You spawn as a baby, you eat to grow, whether that be plants as a herbivore, or other players as a carnivore, while you also try not to get yourself eaten. It's a long waiting game with very short bursts of incredible stress and satisfaction in between, which is where I get most of my DayZ similarities from. At the current moment, I'm still just trying to learn, seeing what dinosaurs I like to play, figure out how diets work properly, and trying to memorize the map. Now, it's a very flawed game. There are quite a few buggy features, and the game doesn't feel the most polished or complete. Development is slow, and the game's creator is allegedly not a very good person. And before I started playing the game, I was considering getting Path of Titans instead, which I definitely want to get into in the future, and is probably much better of a future investment if we're being honest here. But the reason I fell towards the Isle more was mostly just the immersion and the pure survival aspect. And it's fun. I've really been enjoying getting better as I play, and while I'm only starting out, I can see myself putting some real hours into it. Again, as a DayZ player, I've learned to be super tolerant with bugginess and unpolished games, and I don't mind slow games all that much unless they're only boring for the sake of being boring, which the Isle isn't. But as a kid, I was more of a train guy honestly, but dinosaurs are pretty cool too. I also began playing Telltale's The Walking Dead on stream. Check out my main channel, I'll be streaming every day until I complete all seasons. All I gotta say is absolute peak. Finally we have a good Walking Dead story again without any filler. Telltale games never miss, and every moment with the game I've spent so far has been incredibly tense, thrilling, and emotional. The Walking Dead has always been about the characters, and it's a good thing that every character, good or bad, is really well done in this type of game format, at least as much as they can be. It's always hard being the one making the tough decisions, and although the game does do a good job at never having you do something that you don't most of the time, when you need to pick between two characters, especially if you're really close to both of them, it's just devastating. And again, being a Walking Dead story, you never know what the game is going to throw at you next. I can't wait to see where the game goes throughout every episode, and it's one of my favorite story games already. And another game that I'm definitely going to be putting big hours into is Killing Floor 1. If I would have been playing this game when I was younger instead of COD Zombies, not only would my life be completely changed, but I definitely would have been a cooler kid. The reason I wanted to play the first game instead of the much loved sequel or the most recently released third game is just because of how bare bones it is in comparison. I heard a bunch of people talk about it as a much more refined, simpler, and consistent game than its modern takes, and plus, I love old games. All the different classes that you can play all feel cohesive, and the fact that you aren't locked into a specific playstyle and you can buy any weapon from any class, no matter what you're playing, is really great. And the guns themselves are all amazing. The animations and gore truly is straight up eye candy. And as for the enemies themselves, they're all rather basic, but somehow different enough to make every game feel super samey. I used to just hop on COD Zombies just to run around and blast zombies, and for my almost 500 hours on Black Ops 3, that's all I've done. So now being able to do exactly that in a cooler, much more fun game, with even more diverse gameplay, is just something I've always wanted. I really can't believe how this game hasn't been on my radar. And finally, I've returned to Deep Rock Galactic for the first time in quite a while. expect a video on my main channel coming soon.